Hello, this is Juhong Min from Hankook Academy of Foreign Studies, and I'm 11th grade.
Hello, my name is Jua Lee, a rising sophomore from Fayston Preparatory School.
Hello, I'm Minju Kim, 8th grade, attending St. Johnsbury Academy, Jeju.
Hello, my name is Sung Guang Choi from SkySim International School, and I'm 9th grade.
Hello, my name is Grace Yansana from Singapore International School, and I'm currently 9th grade.
We are Team 7, and we will present about SDG 1, No Poverty. We will first talk about what is poverty, situations before and after COVID-19, projects held by organizations, and lastly, actions we can take to solve this poverty.
To begin with, we prepared a true or false question. The question is, 1 person in 10 lives in extreme poverty globally. If you guys think the answer is yes, will you please raise your hand? Yes, as many of you guys raised your hand, the answer to this question is true. 1 out of 10 living in extreme poverty elucidates how severe the poverty is. This is the statistics of the world population living in extreme poverty. As it is shown, as the economy and the world develop, the number of people not in extreme poverty increases conspicuously. However, the number of people living in extreme poverty do not make any notable moves. The population did lower on a small scale around 2015 due to the endeavors of the UN organizations. Nevertheless, still a lot of people are living in poverty. After the COVID-19, which is the recent years, the poverty rate escalated, and it will be explained in the section of situations after the pandemic. Poverty is a state of not having enough possessions, which leads the individual to be inferior in quality. Poverty does not only mean being poor, not having enough supplies to make a living. Myriad situations occur due to poverty, and to elucidate those state of affairs, sometimes there are denial of opportunities in societies. As shown in this image where the path is divided into two, one way to education and success, and the opposite to poverty. Students who are living in underdeveloped regions or are living in poverty cannot go to school nor the clinics since they cannot afford it. This will lead to the students being uneducated, and not just the students but other people to have health problems. Access to sanitation or food is not easily given to those who are in poverty as well, which leads to people to suffer in hunger or be distressed due to food poisoning. Now, these were the main reasons why we could stay focused with our topic. We are students who go to school, which means well-educated, having access to drink clean water, and it is always open to going to the clinics. We felt bad for the children around our age, not having access to be educated or to enjoy one's rights. It motivated us to be interested in the topic, and as an outcome, our group members very enjoyed researching about this topic and learned a lot through it, which we are going to share during this presentation. The effect that poverty is having on people, the economy, and countries are crucial. Therefore, to make a sustainable future, the contribution to end poverty has become significant. SDG, which stands for Sustainable Development Goals, is a collection of 17 goals that are intended to be achieved by the year 2030. Out of 17 goals, SDG 1 is no poverty. No poverty requires all the achievements of other goals. It is salient since it is a basic human right to health, education, food, and safe water. Every population in the entire world deserves life without poverty. The aim of SDG 1 is the end of poverty in all its manifestations until 2030. Furthermore, SDG 1 strives to provide social protection for the people living in vulnerable conditions, which is the reason why it makes SDG 1 important.
Okay, this is Juhong Min, and I'll talk about situations before COVID-19. But before looking through the poverty situations until COVID-19 outbreak have occurred, let's first see what drives poverty. To deeply understand current situations, we must know what has been maintaining poverty for such a long history until now. When we think of poverty situations, we usually have a general image, such as income problems or such images I'm showing you right now. But the cause of the poverty is not made up of ostensible factors. There are various factors existing, and I listed 6 of them here. I'll briefly explain about these factors. First, conflict. Second, inequality. Third, climate change. Fourth, lack of reserves and infrastructure. Fifth, lack of education. And lastly, little or no access to reliable jobs. I'll just talk about 2 right now. First, climate change. Climate events or maybe small disasters such as drought, flooding, and severe storms hit communities already living in poverty. You know the reason? Because many of the poorest populations rely on farming or hunting and gathering to eat and earn living. To them, these changes are disproportionately impacted. Second, lack of education. UNESCO have estimated that 171 million people could escape from extreme poverty if they left school with basic reading skills. Lack of education leads to lack of skills that can be used to get a stable job and into a long-term poverty situations that doesn't seem to get better right now. Many families can't just afford to send their children to school and need them to work for them. These were representative factors that drive poverty and which are problems remaining unsolved. Now let's see about the poverty rate change. Global poverty trend. Good to hear. The global share of people in extreme poverty has decreased consistently since 1990. At that time, over 35% of the world population was included in the group. It has changed now to less than 10% in 2015, and 2019 it was even better. The number of people living in poverty as measured by the higher international poverty lines of $3.2 and $5.5 increased between 1990 and 1999, but has fallen since then. In 2015, over 1/5 of the global population lived below $3.2 and almost a half lived below $5.5 a day. Ending extreme poverty by 2030 is a principal target of the SDGs, and since 1990, significant progress has been positively improving in reducing economic poverty globally. Next is regional poverty trends. Extreme poverty is increasingly become concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa. In 1990, 15% of people who were extremely poor lived in the region. In 2015, this share was 56%, as you can see on the map. Countries in the East Asia and Pacific region made up 52% of the extremely poor population in 1990, but now in 2015, they represented just 6%. Lastly, national poverty trends. China and India are responsible for the greatest national reductions in poverty. Almost 1 billion people across those 2 countries moved out of extreme poverty between 1990 and 2015. Extreme poverty has increased in most countries in sub-Saharan Africa. The largest increases have occurred in Democratic Republic of Congo, Madagascar, and Nigeria.
Unlike in the world when there was no COVID-19 that we thought we could achieve UN SDG 1 no poverty by 2030, the COVID-19 outbreak has occurred, changing so much that we can't even imagine how we would have hoped for it in the past. Many people who were doing well before the pandemics were on the verge of losing their livelihood. Now that it is harder to live due to the COVID-19, many changes have occurred. Of all those changes, I focused on one thing that was most disturbing of the goal of eliminating poverty, which is an increase in the poverty rate. Hunger, unsafe, not educated are examples of the poverty rate increases side effects. According to this graph, the poverty rate has decreased enough to achieve goals by 2030 through the efforts of many institutions and people. However, since the outbreak of the COVID-19, the poverty rate has increased. not as expected since 2020. The reason why poverty rates have risen so rapidly is that the economy went bad. COVID-19 has led to nations becoming more socially polarized. Although there was originally a gap between rich and poor, the gap has widened since the outbreak. COVID-19 has hit hard on jobs for middle-class and low-income workers working in restaurants and shops. Since they don't have any customers, they can't make any money. Also, there was a big blow for workers who were producing products because customers are not coming out and consuming. Producers are no longer able to produce as much as before. In doing so, producers who made a living in production could not earn as much as they used to. Also, the amount of production decreases, so the bosses don't need many people to work anymore. So many people get unemployed. However, high-income people who share the results within the organization and can switch to telecommunicating and overcome the COVID-19 themselves have not been hit hard. As the income of the middle class became similar to the low-income class, the middle class, which had a positive impact on economic growth in the middle, collapsed. And on the contrary, as the high-income class made more money, the economic market became unbalanced and socially unstable. If you see this graph, a lot of people started to starve in 2020 when the COVID-19 began. This tells us that many people experienced hunger after the outbreak. There are many reasons for it, but the main reason is that as people lost their jobs, they ran out of money to buy food. To give some examples and cases of students, before COVID-19, poor students did not starve very much because they could eat at least one meal at school. But now, as you can see from the map, due to school closure, most schools are having virtual learning. Therefore, students can go to school, which makes them more likely to starve since they have to eat all 3 meals on their own. COVID-19 has left more people unable to live at home and have to live homelessly. However, being homeless is dangerous because it means there's no shelter to protect. Being homeless was not safe before, but now it has become more dangerous because of infectious disease. In the case of homeless students, they could be at school almost every day, so it wasn't very dangerous because except for sleeping, they didn't have to stay outside much. However, with the outbreak and the increased time spent outdoors, such as taking online classes without going to school, students are more likely to become dangerous. According to UNICEF, online platforms are the most widely used by governments to deliver education while schools remain closed. And 83% of countries use this method. And actually, almost all the schools in the world have virtual classes without running schools right now. However, UNICEF also stated that, unfortunately, virtual classes have potentially reached only about a quarter of the world's students. Also, 3 out of 4 students who cannot be contacted due to remote learning policies around the world are from the poorest. The widening gap between the rich and the poor has left the low-income class as well as the middle class unable to access computers, the internet, and so on and so forth. So they can no longer attend online classes. This leaves a huge number of people uneducated than before. So I think you guys might be wondering why our team focused a lot on COVID-19 when poverty is our actual topic. We focused a lot on COVID-19 because it had a huge impact on society as there was a big difference between before and after COVID-19. For instance, the effect of poverty can follow a child into adulthood, leading to chronic illness and lack of education or the ability to work. Furthermore, lack of education and ability to work affects the global economy and conservation of nature. Moreover, as COVID-19 keeps us isolated by having new variants, one person's health is impacting one another globally. In other words, if one suffering from poverty gets infected by the virus, it would be hard to transmit the virus. Problems caused by poverty in different parts of the world impact everyone. Thus, we shouldn't think of poverty as a problem confined to certain areas. It is a problem that impacts all of us, which makes it crucial.
Before we go through our section, there's a quiz for you. There's a blank and there are 4 given choices. And I'll give you a few seconds to read and think about it. And after I count 3 seconds, please raise your hands if you know what is the best fitted for the blank. So, already, okay. Can you raise up your hands after I count? Sorry. Okay, 3, 2, 1, now begin. Oh, Gia, you was the fastest. Can you say the answer?
I personally think that it is UNDESA because it stands for Economic and Social Affairs, which is like including 2 out of the 3 like sustainability development goals.
Yes, exactly. You're right. Congratulations. Yeah. Yes, the COVID-19 has altered every field of the world. We've stated before, during the pandemic, the population of poverty conspicuously increased. Next slide, please. Therefore, UN organizations began to get serious about this issue. Look at them. They're talking about this. The UNICEF says, we are preparing aids for the children in poverty. In response to UNHCR says also, we need to help them. And also 2 organizations gathered here, UNDP and WFP. They also say they should be eradicate poverty. So we're already doing an online campaigns. Wow. I can feel it's a really important issues in the world. And most UN organizations are planning projects for eradicating poverty. And today, I'm going to introduce an organization called United Nations Department of Economics and Social Affairs called UNDESA. So what is this organization? We'll tell you now. So UNDESA is rooted in the UN, has a monumental role to achieve SDGs. It works with the governments and stakeholders to support countries around the world face their important goals, such as economic, social, and environmental challenges. And furthermore, it helps countries to convert their international commitments like SDGs, like I mentioned, into national movements in every part of the countries. And if a country struggles with acting for SDGs in their country, UNDESA helps to set norms to function well itself so the country can also act for SDGs efficiently and without problems. In addition, there's plenty of information and databases that help countries to make informed decisions. I think this is the most powerful advantage what UNDESA has. So you would have questions like this. UNDESA does, what UNDESA does? So it does mainly 3 things. Firstly, intergovernmental support. Like we've stated before, UNDESA cooperates closely with governments of countries around the world. And it enables countries to build partnerships and implementations and make important decisions together in most parts of countries by promoting global conferences and meetings and negotiations with the other countries. And secondly, the analysis. UNDESA generates an extensive range of data about economics and society and the environment. It informs and advises the member governments and other groups to deal with common problems that the world has. And the last one is the capacity building. And UNDESA focuses on several capacities based on innovative approaches like methodologies and great models action in models in the world. Furthermore, it tries to collaborate partners to solve specific gaps in the capacities of countries. They also attempt to achieve SDGs goals by implementing innovative initiatives like SDG accelerations. And these are the specific requirements of capacities, what UNDESA is looking for. So I'll tell you one very crucial and monumental project by UNDESA. It's SDG Acceleration Actions. And it's an online platform and initiatives set up by the UNDESA to capture and promote new commitments and actions from national governments and all non-state actors to promote implementation of the SDG. On this website, there are plenty of ongoing projects directly related to SDGs. Let me briefly tell you some examples. Equal Ratio, the Equality Project, supported by BBC Newsroom and cooperated by UNDESA. And they had one goal: equal representation of women and men in contents, exactly equal ratio. So it lasted for a few years, and finally, it showed us progress. As it was mentioned, UNDESA supports countries through large databases and strategic initiatives. This project clearly shows how UNDESA utilizes information and online platforms to give specific strategy for the countries in order to achieve SDGs. So, these projects will accelerate eradicating poverty. A lot of organizations are now doing SNS challenges and projects. Therefore, now is the time to join with us.
The COVID-19 and the unprecedented poverty crisis are far from being over. The basic support that was provided before the pandemic has been reduced to the level of emergency. Such an unprecedented global outbreak and poverty will push more than 120 million people into extreme poverty. Extended period of extreme poverty will not be a temporary shock. Extreme poverty can impact generations of those that are impacted. Long-term extreme poverty will impact most of the 17 SDGs, also impacting all aspects of SDGs directly or indirectly. Extreme poverty during the pandemic outbreak will negatively impact us in some way or another. Therefore, those who are not excessively impacted by COVID-19 should support those in need. In order to provide support to those in need, all of us should continuously provide support by understanding the problems and concerns of those in need. What can we, as youths, do to take action in order to achieve SDG 1, no poverty? Young people may feel like there is nothing they can do to help global poverty. However, youth have more power to help than they actually believe. To begin with, the most uncomplicated and direct way that youth can participate is to donate. A donation here means providing supplies, food, clothing, and more, not only confined to donating money. Numerous organizations like the UNDESA accept donations. Furthermore, spreading awareness is a fundamental step for people to take action. Spreading awareness can be achieved by talking about how to reach out and help those in need to those around you. You can also spread awareness by internet and social network. Although one single person feels weak and powerless, doing things together, one can become a very impactful hand. The third way for SDG 1 to be achieved is to actually participate in volunteer work. Volunteerism leads to mobilizing friends and neighbors for more support and also provides a chance of interactions and concrete actions. Surprisingly, there are many people who want to help but don't know where or how to begin. You can start by linking those who want to help to the organization for those under poverty. Monetary support only has a limited impact. Physical participation provides meaning to the cause and support someone in need and make them break out of poverty. That is, to support someone in need and make them break out of poverty, one's heart should be with the materialistic support to achieve transformative change. Poverty not only means famine and lack of necessities, but it also leads to a lack of hope and helplessness. We believe that a warm-hearted physical support with materialistic support can help those in need during what seems to be endless days of poverty aggravated by COVID-19. You may still be wondering why poverty matters for us. You may still argue that we can be indifferent about poverty happening in the opposite part of the world. However, like stated before, we are all interconnected. Problems anywhere can be a menace to everyone. Poverty is not just a problem for some, but a concern for everyone. We live on a round planet. One living well without concern of others will not last a long time. Poverty of those living on the opposite side of the planet will impact us sooner or later. We must support each other to save one another and save the planet. We would like to conclude the presentation with a quote by Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations. Extreme poverty anywhere is a threat to human security everywhere. And these are our references.
Now, if you have questions, feel free to ask us, and thank you for listening to our presentation.
Okay, Dion and Sorin.
So I'll just go first. Thank you, Group 7, for the stellar presentation. I think the presentation was very informative and descriptive. So in your presentation, you've mentioned that UNDESA does policy consultations for countries to align sustainable development in their nations. However, addressing global poverty or basically just any issues in the UN Sustainable Development Goals require reinforcements and some checkups. So how does UNDESA partner with other NGOs or private sectors to ensure that the goals and policies are in check?
Can I answer? Okay. UNDESA, basically, UNDESA cooperates with other UN organizations, like I mentioned, UN Habitat and UNDP, and it has also specified, and it has more group organizations, like I said, SDG acceleration actions. It is not a project by UNDESA itself. UNDESA's kind of group, sustainable development groups, belong to UNDESA. So there are many groups itself to action and promote the SDG goals in the world.
All right.
What next? Next? Is it?
Can I
Yeah.
ask my question?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. Thank you for your engaging presentation. And I think poverty is an essential crisis that all countries should resolve. And as you mentioned about China and other nations, I believe it is vital to hold responsibility in corresponding the serious inflation issues for the resolution, because inflation induces poverty as well. So hence I wanted to inquire if UNDESA cooperates or supports the government or the nation itself to have economic stimulus to avoid stalking inflation. Yeah, thank you.
Our team, is there anybody can answer? Because it was not my part that I researched it.
Sure, I guess that was your part.
I had an investigation about the statistics itself. So can you repeat this question just one more time?
So I inquired to you about if UNDESA is cooperating or supporting the government or the nation itself to have economic stimulus to avoid stalking inflation. Or if you didn't really observe any analysis about this, you can tell me later if you want.
I haven't thought of that about the UNDESA, wherein UNDESA can make the solution about the inflation since the China and India showed a positive change. So if I have chance, that was the part that I couldn't think of before, but if I have chance, then I'll investigate it. Bye, and thank you for the question.
Thank you.